Now we're back to learning CSS. I haven't yet talked about the box model. I've just mentioned a couple of details in regard to it. Let us create a simple div container with the class of box. For us to be able to see it, I give it a background color with an 8. And you know what, let me rename that. I call this class size. Still runs, and now I add the box class, and I select it here because every element in CSS is in principle a box, a paragraph, div container, whatever you can think of. Let me add some text here. But the box itself doesn't just rely or doesn't just consist of its width and height. There are also other elements that are added to the box. For example, the border. We make that 15 pixels solid black. I refresh it and you can see this is added to my div container. So the box, which is the HTML element, the div container. And you can see it gets added to the width. So if I get rid of that, we'll start right here where the E is for every. And if I add the border, we'll go to the end of the word every. So width and height and border are summed up if we have it both added to our element. Therefore, our current box size would be not just 300 in width and height, but 330, because the border is in two places, left, right, or top, bottom. Two more elements make the box. One is the padding, and you can see that with the text right here. So our text gets pushed away from the border by adding the padding. And this also makes our box bigger. So we don't just have 330, we now have with a padding of 50, 430 for width and height, or for total width and height of our box. Last element that adds to our box is the margin. You can see the padding is basically part of the element and gets there for the red background. The margin doesn't get a red background. It's still part of the box though. It's just not part of our element that we can see here. So it doesn't have a red background. But still, if we add, for example, paragraphs or other elements before and after it, you can see that the margin plays a role in determining the box which nests our div container. So to sum that up, our box doesn't matter if it's a div container, paragraph, a headline, a table, whatever you add. It's always nested inside of a box from the perspective of CSS. And this has always 4 elements, which is width and height as the basic size. Then the border, which is added. The padding, which was in our case 50. And the margin. So in this example, we would have 300 width plus 2 times border is 330 plus 2 times padding is 430 plus 2 times margin, which would be 530 pixels for the width and the height. This would now be our CSS box that nests the div container. And as I've said, if we add elements before or after it, you can see how this box gets pushed down or the box pushes down whatever comes after it. And that's an important thing to understand if you want to use CSS and have your layouts positioned correctly. Most of this should be fairly obvious, but padding and margin, you might mix that up a little bit. Padding is always what is inside, and margin is always what is outside of the actual element. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.